Hello and welcome to Goalie Talk number 7 with your hosts Chris.
And Pontus.
And today we're going to be talking about game preparation and everything that entails. And before that, what's been going on? How are you doing, Pontus?
Look at you, hosty McHost face.
I know my dream has become real.
Well done, buddy. Well done.
Thank
No,
you.
I'm good. I'm excited to do 2 episodes of the podcast this week.
Yes.
We're doing the Swedish one on Thursday as well.
Ah, very nice, very nice. Man, you're going to be very, very busy then, aren't you?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of editing to do.
Yeah, for sure.
And you?
But much the same, really. Occupying myself watching a very old floorball game, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Watching the men's WFC 2014 final between Sweden and Finland.
Mm.
I have watched that game so many times, and it's funny because I was just studying a goal, just kind of skipping back and playing in slow motion and just seeing everything, and then I was like, okay, yeah, I think I've seen that enough times, and I hit play again, and then I saw the look on Eero Kossanen's face, and I was like, oh, I've seen that look before. I've studied this goal a lot, haven't I?
How come
So
you
I
can
think
keep coming back to 2014?
that's a really good question. I think because it's no secret to you, at least. Like Patrick Orman was definitely and is still like one of my heroes, my goalkeeper heroes. So getting to meet him at the Blindsave camp first time I went was trying to rein in my excitement and not kind of giggle excitedly when he shook my hand. But so I think it's a good game to watch him in action, but maybe it was just kind of nostalgia, like it's a really good game to watch. It's really exciting and very, very high tension. So it's a lot of fun to watch.
And if you look really closely, you might see me in the
Oh yeah,
stands
where's
actually.
the VIP stands?
No, for that game, I'm actually with the Swedish crowd.
Ah, right, okay.
I'm wearing a Swedish jersey with number 90, and it says Målvaktsfokus on the back.
Nice. I'm gonna have to watch this. Is like 2.5 hours long, and have to watch the whole thing. Just keep an eye out for that hoodie.
No, it's a game jersey. Like one of them, I had it.
Oh right.
Bought it and printed it at the tournament.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
That was actually my first time watching Patrick Åhman as well. Before the tournament, I had no clue who he was because I was just then on my way to the tournament, getting into elite floorball. I had never watched an elite floorball game in my life.
Oh wow.
So I actually have a picture from the WFC after party, which you could just buy tickets to and then go there.
Yeah.
And at that after party, I met Pascal Mayer, I met Johan Rehn, Patrick Åhman, I met Jan Barak from the Czech national team.
Right.
And then there was a balcony inside this bar, and then Patrick Åhman was up in the stands, and I just yelled his name and I threw my T-shirt to him, the Målvaktsfokus T-shirt.
Yeah.
And he held it up for me so I could take a picture with him with Målvaktsfokus in 2014.
Oh, that's amazing.
He is also my second ever post on my Målvaktsfokus Instagram is me fanboying over Patrick Åhman and having him record a message for the goalies of my floorball club at the time.
Oh wow.
So that's a very special tournament for me as well.
Yeah, nice. Oh, that's super cool. Yeah, it was really nice. I want to say surprised, but I also don't want to say surprised because, my experience with him is on court, and he's very self-confident. Like
Yes.
he knows who he is. He knows everything about his court. That is his goal. And so meeting him in person, and then he's like, "Is this super nice guy? He's super humble, and he's just like super happy to just stop and have a chat." And it's like it's not what you expect from watching him on TV. He's like it was super cool. And then since then we've met at every Blind Safe camp since then. So it's just like 3 now. And then I feel lucky to consider him a friend now. And it's funny that it started from watching him on YouTube and then freaking out on the bus to the Blind Safe camp.
Yeah, same here. Actually, I posted a picture shortly after the WFC, I think, with one picture from the game where he is screaming at this Swiss player called Scalvinone, and he's really close to his face, and he's grinning and showing his teeth, and he has this killer face on him. And then in the next picture is him looking super sweet. Because I had experienced exactly what you did, because I got to, from just meeting him the first time down by the rink, he, took the time to record this message for my club. And
yeah. Oh, that's super cool, man. It's funny, like you telling me that story, and I can actually picture him doing that. Of just like, yeah, sure. Like, no worries. Just tell me what you want me to say. Like, it's very easy to imagine like the Patrick Orman that I know doing that. and that's
For sure. Yeah,
but yeah,
absolutely.
like imagining, the Patrick Coleman from the videos doing that is more of a stretch.
Yeah.
But I guess that's, there's court mentality and there's off court mentality, and I think he has that nailed. Like he has that switch, just you know, like magic. It's crazy. It is so good to watch.
He has a very good switch.
Yeah, it's quite impressive that personally, I've not seen it bleed through. Like you don't see the like crossover, which is
Yeah.
actually is very admirable in terms of because I think everybody has a goalie persona, I guess, or like attitude, and sometimes it's hard to differentiate, or sometimes you get on the court and you haven't quite switched over, and you're kind of yourself for a while, and then you miss a couple of goals, and then you're like, okay, yeah, like but his is like a switch, like so like you're saying, you watched him play, and then just off the rink, you asked him if he could film a video, and he's like, yeah, sure. It's like
So what's yours? Do you have one of those switches? Do you switch mental? Do you have a floorball goalie alter ego that you switch into when you play?
At the risk of embarrassing myself, I absolutely do. Yeah, I fully consider that there's a goalie Chris, and it's usually when I'm geared up and I focus and I kind of all right, game ready to go, and it's kind of like it's handing over the reins, to goalie Chris, and let him do what he needs to do, because if I'm there, it's if I'm present in the game and thinking about things, it gets in the way. And so, kind of the way that I view it, at least, is my trainings, and particularly like individual trainings and everything, and goalie analysis and stuff, is like that's me preparing goalie Chris for game time and equipping him the best that I can. And then on game time, that's when I hand it over, and it's like 100% him, because if I get involved, that's when things go wrong.
Oh wow. I have the reverse of what we just said about Patrick. I have the reverse for you. So imagining you going into this intense kind of killer mentality.
Mm.
What with you being so approachable outside of the rink?
I would not say killer mentality. I struggle with that. I'm very restrained in my emotion on the court, like deliberately so. I will celebrate an awesome save if I'm super proud of something, but most of the time, if I'm playing, I would just not, get emotionally involved.
Right.
And I
Okay.
won't, I won't challenge people unless they've like repeatedly done something really stupid, like come and smack me in the hands, and then
Mm.
after like a couple of times, then I'm going to stand up and be like, look, you need to, get lost. Like, but succinctly, because it's it's goalie Chris at that point. But I think, yeah, I don't have the kind of the killer mentality that say Patrick has, but I would say it's more, for me, it's more stoic and focused, and that's my kind of my switch. And I very rarely let myself get angry on the court, like, or frustrated at a save. And I think it's usually due to like repetition. Like if the team as a whole is playing badly and you concede a lot of goals, then it's easy for it to start bleeding in. But it's a very dangerous slope to stand on, and just the first time you get scored on, if you go, that's a little bit annoying, and then like you let yourself acknowledge it, and then it stays with you. Then the second time it happens, you have the first goal's frustration and the second goal's, and then it
Yeah.
happens again, and you've got the third goal's frustration, the second goal's frustration, and the first goal's frustration, etc., etc., etc. And when you concede 19 goals in a game, um, because you
Which I
and your
hope doesn't
team,
happen too much.
yeah, right. And so it's like that's when you kind of, if you've let every goal get to you just a little bit, you are so screwed. And so I really try and make an effort to like absolutely minimize that, like absolutely crush that response, and just be like, give myself a few seconds after every goal and go, like, stay where I am, in my position and where I was when I got scored on, and go, what happened? Okay, cool. Next goal, next time. Exactly like Patrick says, like, okay, next one, next one, just
Right.
straight away. Like, you've got to just drop it. Like, I think you
I do,
can't stay with
however,
it.
think that you have bigger problems than the bigger problem isn't your ability to deal with having 19 goals scored on you. The bigger problem is having 19 goals scored.
Yeah.
Your team has to change something
Yes.
at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
Was that a real like, life example?
It was actually, and that was two different goalkeepers. It was
Yeah.
the worst game I've ever played. It was like nobody was even there, and they switched me out, and then like it was another 6 goals in 5 minutes, and then they switched me back in, and it was like, kind of like, why are we here?
Yeah.
That's fine. So that was the frustration. But I think like one time that I have got frustrated and tried to use it against me, but it was also like accidental frustration. Was I made a save like in the first couple of minutes of a game, and it bounced off me, but because it came off me, it had a spin on it, so it went to my left in front of goal,
Mm,
hit the ground, and the spin changed direction straight back into the goal. And
mm,
I just I was so annoyed because it was like, I already saved it. And everyone's like, why are you annoyed? Like, it's the first goal, we've still got like 58 minutes left. And I was like,
mm.
no, I made that save. Like, that's
Yeah.
why I'm annoyed.
How the ball goes in matters greatly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we went on to win that game like 7-2. So I wasn't too upset at the end of the game, but it was like, just that instant of like describing it as like a flash of anger. You just kind of like, oh God, all right, fine. And then you move on, but it's just that initial frustration.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Shall we move into our main topic?
Let's do it.
So, last week we asked our listeners to talk about game preparation and tell us what your routines are. When do you start preparing? What do you do on the same day? And what do you do immediately before your game? So, we got a couple of responses, which Pontus is going to take us through. Fire away.
Yeah. And this is on Instagram. This is from Danne Larsson 91, who says, when we put this out, by the way, these listener engagement segments we will prompt in these episodes, but then we will also try to remember to put them as stories on Instagram, which is what we've done, which is where the responses are given to us this time. And so he prefaces this with 3 main points. The first one being to get a lot of sleep and a steady breakfast and pasta for lunch, which is quite specific. And if it is an afternoon game, like look over the opponents, to learn who you're playing against. That's phase one. So sleep and eat, and read up on the opponents.
Yeah, right.
Second thing is loud music in the headphones, preferably music like ODZ, which doesn't tell me much.
No, I don't know. Hang on. Let us see what Google comes up with.
Right. I will keep reading meanwhile as you Google. Like ODZ or similar to get started. Always left first when putting the gear on, which means left sock first before the right one. Same thing with the gloves, with the shoes, and then always do the same warm up. And finally, a complete zero tolerance for saying that you're going to get a shutout in the game.
He is a very wise man.
Yeah, I like that one. It's a slippery slope to say that you're gonna make a shutout.
Mm,
It's a good mentality to have, I believe. Like
mm.
it's a right mentality to have, but the key is to have the tools to be able to deal with it when you don't do the shutout, when you don't have 0 goals. When the
Yes.
first one goes in, how do you deal with it at that point? If you're completely defeated by the fact that you didn't reach your goal of getting a shutout, then you might have problems. So, for by all means, set the goal to have a shutout, but have methods of dealing with it if you don't. And that's just my take on it. So that was
Mm.
Daniel Larson.
I really agree with that as well. I think it's a wonderful goal to have of a shutout, but at the same time, you almost sabotage yourself by setting yourself this unachievable goal. Like you don't know what's going to happen in the next 60 minutes, and so one thing I've learned with a little bit of research is that everyone who suggests successful goals is like make sure that it's achievable. Like, is it something that you can do? And it's like running 100 meters in 30 seconds is like, yeah, okay, I can probably do that maybe. But getting a shutout, like you're not the shooters, so you don't have control over that. So
Yeah.
saying that you're going to get a shutout is like, well, the other 30 people in the game might have something to say about that. But it's a very not unrealistic, but
Very high.
very high and very difficult to achieve. Like it's not something for you to achieve. It's like everybody has to be on it. So like your defense has to be outstanding and their shooters have to not be outstanding. Like it's kind of the perfect storm. So there's a lot riding on that perfect storm if you set yourself up for that.
And you also, there's such a thing as, uncontrollable events, like the ball hits something and then redirects in one direction, and then hits another thing and then spins uncontrollably, or
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
and you can't control that either. You're gonna. So yeah, I agree. Setting, and that's what he said he doesn't do. He has a zero tolerance for saying, "All right, let's get the shutout" or something, or having people
yeah,
tell
yeah,
him that. Even I believe. Did you
yeah.
find what ODZ was?
Yes, they so I think a Swedish band. Yes, electro and hip hop rap. It says. But this is. It redirected me to a guy, Frey Larsen. I don't know if I'm
Ah,
saying that right.
Frej Larsson. I actually am so poorly versed in Swedish music that I couldn't tell you, but it's a famous name. I know
Ah,
that
right.
much.
Maybe he did some music with ODZ. I don't know if he is actually part of them because it's in Swedish. So I don't know.
All right, I will have to look it up then. We have another answer from Sebastian Krantz, another Swedish person, who says that he starts his preparation already on the morning of the game day, properly packing everything. He wants to be one of the first ones to the gathering before the game.
Hmm.
He wants to take a few kilometer long run.
Interesting.
Quite interesting indeed. A light yoga session,
Mhm.
and then get changed in a special or specific way, meaning that he also always starts with the left one, just like the previous one.
Yeah. Right.
Left knee pad first, left elbow pad first, and when he's putting the gear on, he has to have his own music and some special songs. Then
Right.
there's then nothing special as they head out to the court.
Hmm.
But after the warm up, when you go back to the locker room,
Yeah.
he always closes his eyes and imagines himself or sees himself dominating out there on the court.
Nice. That's a really good one. I like that. That's very important. Personal experience with starting that after probably like 60% of my season and not having done it. And then going, hey, what the hell? Give it a go. And man, the difference is just insane. Like you are so much more on point. Like you imagine yourself making a save, and in my case, like making dives, successfully pulling off dives because it was
Yeah,
something I particularly struggled with at the time. And bam, man, you get in the game, and it's just like you whip out this amazing dive, and it's like I couldn't do that last week. Like
yeah,
it was like it's that kind of difference. Like if you picture yourself being able to do it, making the save, making the movement, whatever, when you get on court, your brain knows what to do and it just does it. It's so, yeah, I think props to this guy for pointing that out. I like that one. It's good.
I can't say that I ever worked a lot with visualization, but then also I had a very
Mm.
short playing career, only
Yeah,
two
true.
and a half, 3 seasons
Hmm.
in my teen years, so I didn't have time for it. By the way, I just to chime in, I definitely have a switch as well
Oh
when
yeah, right.
I play. I am no longer. I don't attempt to be coaching Pontus when I'm playing.
Mm,
When I as
mm.
soon as I go in the net,
Yeah.
my voice will be hoarse after every time that I've played.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh man.
but they are good things. Mostly that I'm yelling. It's watch this guy here, check this
Right.
thing out here.
Yeah.
Nice block. It's
Mm. Have you thought about trying this?
yeah. So moving on, we have a very short answer from Patrik Augustusson, who said, "I used to watch 2 hype videos on YouTube before I went to the arena."
What videos? Sorry.
2 hype videos.
2 hype videos. Interesting. Okay.
So it was pretty unspecific. It just says 2 hype videos.
Like to
So
the number videos.
yeah, 2 of the number and
Mm.
hype videos.
Yeah. Right.
Um,
Okay.
so as you mentioned off air, you mentioned
Mhm.
Christian Corrai's like goalie motivation. No, you mentioned his Instagram, but he has a goalie
Yes.
motivation video that's been hugely successful on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
So it's probably stuff like that, or
Mm.
there's all types of motivational videos on
Yes.
YouTube. I find those to be hugely effective, actually.
Yes. Do you want to know a secret?
Yes.
I watch your everyday saves every
Oh,
single time
really?
before my game. Yeah.
Hey.
That's my routine. Is I will have my breakfast. Well, part of my routine is while I'm eating my breakfast, I will sit down and I will look up on YouTube and I will watch everyday saves, and that's my hype video of getting me in, making sure I'm in the right mindset to go and play.
That's my guy. What do you have a go-to one of them?
Uh, yes, but I can't remember off the top of my head because I'm usually watching. in the lounge on my console, so it's on the
Right.
TV. It's one of Yoon's games, but I could not tell you off the top of my head what it is. I'm sorry. I'll look it up and I'll send it to you. But it's one of the ones that's like it's super easy to find on search, and so that's part of the reason. But then it's kind of like, oh yeah, that one, yeah, I know that that's good. That works to get me in the right mindset. So let's go for that. So
Yeah, glad to hear it.
mm,
It's a very good playlist, I think, as well. The editing is quite cheesy and the music selection is poor, but that's because it's royalty-free music, so
oh, yeah.
you have to take what you get. But then eventually I found that I could use Pixpo's old song.
Yes, I liked that one. It was a
Yeah,
good
I think
change.
it's so retro, and
Mm,
I've talked to the company as well who made the
mm.
song because I got copyright striked on it, or
Oh, really?
copyright claimed, because they are run by a company somewhere else, like in New York or
Ah,
something. Um, but I
interesting.
called the Swedish studio and they're like, yeah, yeah, no problem to use it. Send me an email so we have it like on paper.
Mm, mm.
So I am still copyright claimed on any video that I use that song, which only means that I couldn't make any money off that video, but I make no money off any video on YouTube because
Yeah.
I'm not monetized. So it's
Mm,
really
mm.
not an issue. So
Yeah,
since
for
I
sure.
found that one, the music I believe works out a lot better. But the poor music aside and the cheesy editing, I actually really like those because
Mm.
like I say in those videos, it's not about the fancy saves, it's about the total number of them.
Yeah, and I think it's nice as well. It's like the opposite of highlight reels,
Mm,
which is funny because like only goals or like the 1 in a million saves make
yeah.
the highlight reel. And as a goalie, you go on YouTube or you go on Instagram or whatever, and everyone's like, check out this motivational football video. And then it's just people getting scored on all the time. And you're like, man, that's not very motivational for the goalie. Like
Right. Yeah.
he's having a terrible day right now. So it's like it's the highlight reel, but for goalies, you want to see, goalies making saves. That's what the goalie is there for. So it's awesome. Yeah, I love those videos.
And I also believe it to be good for it's this whole thing you and me talked a lot about catching.
Mm, mm,
I know people want to make one-handed catches and stuff.
yeah,
But as you can see in these videos, it's not really a thing.
yeah,
Like one-handed catches are in the SSL, it's pretty much not a thing.
yeah.
I have in all the videos that I have of Ewan, which is the one that I have the most videos of, I think he has one-handed catch.
Yeah.
And he's good at catching. It's just that it
Mm.
doesn't happen. So I believe it's good to see all the types of saves that a goalie would regularly like make on a steady basis to kind of get the right idea of what is a good save. Like you say, not the extravagant ones. It's the
Yeah, for sure. Like, what is the bread and butter of a goalie at playing at that level? It's
exactly.
quite surprising, isn't it?
So we have one more reply,
Hmm.
which we got 42 minutes ago from Between the Posts, Lars and David,
My boys.
the homies from Switzerland slash Germany.
I miss those guys. Hopefully, they'll be coming to a Målvaktsfokus camp this year. You guys better be listening and better be in PTO this year.
Yes. It's unclear to me though which one of you guys or which one of David and Lars wrote this because
Mm.
the account is just called Between the Posts, so it's not always clear. So one of these guys say that they start the day with washing the equipment and hanging it up.
Wow, they are brave.
I agree.
Uh,
No tumble dryer, air dried is better.
yeah, right.
He says. And then when hanging it up, I have to hang the clothes at the same spot and use the same clippers.
Mm.
Also picking in the same order, so taking them off, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Always the same food. Maybe playing some video games with friends.
Hmm.
Then always the same playlist during warm up. Dressing up with the left side first. Is this a thing? Left side first?
Apparently, I'm now wondering if I do left side first. I think I do, but unconsciously. I've never thought about it.
Like
But
I've heard a
now
bunch
I'm
of
like,
times that people say like that they have a specific side, but now we have
yeah,
3 out of 4 people say left side. I know
yeah,
Joel. I think Joel has one. He has a side.
he has a side as well.
We need to check it out.
I think I start with my left, but I couldn't tell you why.
So if you are listening and you also put your goalie gear on left side first, like the left shoe first before the right shoe,
Mm.
the left knee pad before the right knee pad, let us know.
Yes, please do. This is fascinating. I feel like we've uncovered something. I don't know what, but
I agree. And then if he does this wrong, he has to start over.
really.
Yes, he also avoids the physio.
Good, good.
Before the whistle blows, I kind of hang in the goal. Hard to explain without a picture. Sometimes trying to stare down an opponent.
Mm.
I kind of hang. Okay, so he kind of hangs in the net somehow.
Like, no, does he mean like just like hangs out in the net, like he chills in the goal,
No, I think hangs as the
like
physical
literally
act of
hangs?
hanging. Yeah,
Oh, okay. I'm always terrified because those goals are so loose, like they're so light. Maybe
yeah.
I'm just really heavy, but those like every time I hang or touch it, it moves. So I'm like, man, I don't really think this could take my weight. And yet, I have seen videos of people doing the most amazing things on a floorball goal, and I'm just like, I don't think I could bring myself to do that.
And on that topic, I have been an advocate now for a while for having the goalie net stuck to the ground. Not all the way stuck, but
Mm.
do you know how an ice hockey goal is stuck to the ice?
They're like pegged in or something, aren't they?
Yeah, they're
Like this.
pegged in. So
Mm.
so they drill through the ice and then they put this peg and the goal post is hollow, so they just insert it.
Yeah.
Like if someone skates into the goal,
Yeah.
because the peg is so short that it comes off.
Mm, mm.
And I don't see how the injury risk would be that much higher in floorball if you put short pegs on the goalpost. They would be then short enough to, allow people to run into it without getting injured, but long enough that we could push off the post.
Yes, this is true.
I mean, I guess if you run into it side on, but
Yeah.
how often does that happen?
Well, my worry would not be so much the goal as the pegs, because in floorball, everybody except for the goalie is protection naked. They're not wearing any protection whatsoever. And in my personal experience, everybody falls over in the goal box all the time. Like,
All right.
so if you're like if it's your defender has accidentally backed into you, or like there's a tussle in front of goal, or their attacker comes in and comes after the ball a bit too aggressively and bails, if somebody pushes the goaler and there's a peg, and somebody just falls in the wrong way, like that's where I see the injuries start to happen, because in ice hockey you've always got the helmet.
Damn, that's a good point. That is the first good point that I've heard for a while.
That would be my greatest worry.
Yeah, so if the pegs are exposed, and they would have to be of some very hard material, like very hard plastic or even,
Yeah,
aluminum.
yeah, and an exposed head falling
Yeah,
towards that.
even a
Yeah,
hip or a knee or a foot or whatever.
yeah.
You kind of poked holes in my theory.
I'm sorry, I ruined it. Yeah,
I'll get back to you.
yeah. I think everything else is kind of like, every other body part would be like that would suck. If you fell on it and you crack your hip on it, like that would suck for sure. But head is actually like, if you crack your head on that thing, that's when serious injuries, like very serious injuries, start to happen.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
and I think that alone would be like, nah, let's just leave it as it
Have you
is.
seen the movie Million Dollar Baby?
I have not actually.
It's I think it would, rank amongst, in the category of classic. I
Mhm.
am not 100% sure, but it's an old movie about a boxer.
Yes, was it Clint Eastwood directed, I think? And
Yeah, I was gonna say Clint Eastwood, but I didn't want to jump the gun. But yes, it is Clint Eastwood,
mm,
and Clint also plays the boxing coach,
oh, okay, right.
and he coaches a female boxer. And
Mhm.
spoiler alert: this movie has been out since 2004. I'm just
Like,
only gonna spoil some of it by saying that he's very reluctant to take on this female fighter. I don't think he's ever had a female fighter, but
mm,
she proves to be a beast, a real savage, and she wears him down and takes her on. He's an old guy,
mm,
very experienced coach, and they go through some shit together, and it ends in a dramatic way.
mm.
I don't want to spoil the movie in case anyone. It's a great movie. Made me cry. I cry to movies. It's a thing I do. And getting back to floorball, the most interesting thing from the guys at between the posts.
Mhm.
First of all, washing the gear the same day. You could do it the night before. It's just interesting. And avoiding the physio. That's interesting to me. Avoiding the physio. So the physiotherapist, I presume.
I would presume that as well. I am intrigued by this. I feel like we need to hit them up about this and get an explanation why, other than just the fact that it hurts every time you go and see them. But I got to admit, the washing the gear before the game, man, is so living dangerously in my books. Like, for me, wet knee pads on the inside is like the worst thing. Like, literally any other gear can be wet. Like, the protection vest and stuff, you get used to it so fast it doesn't matter. But wet knee pads on the inside rub on my knees and like actually like burn the knees. It's kind of like it wears away, and so it's For me, I cannot stand that. Like I've actually when I was in New Zealand, they have those fancy hand dryers, the air blade ones.
Airblade, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. They've got them at like airports and stuff, super high tech. And I was at a tournament and I took my knee pads off and lowered them into this thing back and forth and up and down
Clever.
multiple times because I was like, I even flipped them inside out and I'm doing them because I was like, they have to be dry. I have to play in like another 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I was like, these have to be dry by the time I go on the court. So between the posts, I salute you guys. That's you living on the edge with that.
I am convinced your knee pads were not dry in 10 minutes in an Airblade.
No, they weren't. They were warm though. It was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have what else do you have other than watching my
Mm.
thing?
So for me, it will generally start like mental preparation the night before in terms of just being aware that I have to play tomorrow and taking that, pretty seriously. So making sure that I'm not staying out, and kind of making sure that I'm like the first guy we had, the first response, getting enough sleep is super crucial. And even just like not necessarily being like I'm going to get 9, 10 hours sleep, X number for me, but making sure that I make the most of the sleep that I'm getting, and make sure it's good quality sleep. And then I will get up.
How do you get quality sleep?
Well, I have stumbled across something which I don't know if it's correct or not, scientifically speaking, but it suggested that your body works in 90-minute, like 1.5 hour sleep periods, phases. I don't know. And so if you wake up like halfway through one of these, you're basically waking up from super deep sleep, and that's why you're like crazy groggy. But if you
Mm.
wake up at the end of 1.5 hours, then you're kind of like it's as you're rising back to wakefulness anyway. And then if you don't wake up, you just kind of go back to the next phase and go back to sleep. So for me, I try and time that and I will like set an alarm based on the 1.5 hours. Like like I have like 7.5 hours, which is a multiple. So I'm gonna set an alarm for this time. So that's, and also just kind of making sure I go to bed a little bit earlier before I like normally would, and make sure I'm relaxed. And actually, when I go to bed, I'm pretty relaxed and I'm ready to go to sleep. I think every other day it's just kind of like, all right, I can kind of not really keep my eyes open, so it's time to stop playing video games. I'll go to bed now.
Yeah.
So it's like, going to bed in a good place to rest
Yeah.
and then trying to time that so that I get good rest out of it. And one last twist for me is another thing that I read online that seems to work for me. Take it with a grain of salt. I always have a bottle of water next to my bed, and when I wake up, I will like instantly down like half of the bottle, because that was suggested to get rid of morning grogginess.
Hmm.
For myself, it has worked quite well. Like I generally notice the difference when I don't do it compared to when I do it. So that's my kind of little sleep routine. I think is making sure that I am like, I'm going to bed with the intention of getting good rest. I try and get good rest while I'm there, and then when I wake up, I'm awake and alert, and I'm ready to go from there. So
As we say on this podcast, interdasting.
interesting, yes. It's going to be our new catchword. We're going to have
Yes.
goalies across the world coming up to us being like, "Oh, you're the guys,
Ah,
interdasting."
interdasting. All right. So other than sleep.
Okay, so once I'm up and about, I will always aim to get up, say 3 or 4 hours before I have to be like at the stadium. And so typically, my team is always organizing to be there an hour before the game. And like, I think it was our first or second response, they said they like to be one of the first ones there as well. I started doing that as well, and I actually found it super good. Is aiming to be there an hour and a half before, so I basically beat the team there by half an hour.
Mm.
So my morning will consist of get up and do some stretching. So it's just a basic flexibility routine. You could replace it with yoga. Have some breakfast and coffee, and watch my inspirational videos,
Hmm.
and then have a shower and get dressed. Make sure I'm packed and good to go, and then give myself plenty of time to go and then travel to where I need to go. And I would say like each of these kind of mini categories, subcategories would take at about an hour. Like I give myself an hour for it even though I know that it's not going to take me an hour, because once you've kind of done all of this prep to make sure you're in a good place, the last thing you want to do is be like, oh, my last bus is in like 2 minutes. Oh, I got to run,
Yeah, for sure.
So you've got to make sure that it's like, if it's going to take 45 minutes, give yourself an hour. You know it's going to take like 30 minutes on the bus and your bus is at this time, just make sure you've got an hour to do it, and like,
If it takes you 45, but you plan for it to take 1 hour,
mm,
the worst thing that happens then is that you have an extra 15 minutes on location to just chill,
yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah, for
which
sure.
is marvelous.
Yeah, it is super great, and also it means you never have to run and like be stressed. And for me, that's a super important thing. Like, I don't want to have to run to the bus, for example. I don't want to have to run from the bus to the stadium to make the game or make the deadline of hey, the team's supposed to be here like this. So it's
Mm.
like I want to walk in my own headspace. And speaking of actually walking in my own headspace from the bus, is I will always listen to the same music on the bus, and I will practice visualization, but um, on the bus as well, because I know that even if it's a home game, because I play for a team as south in Stockholm, and I'm east-ish, central east maybe. So like for me, it's like it's a pretty long bus ride. It's like at least half an hour. So I can kind of close my eyes and listen to music, and I know that I will still not miss my bus stop. Like it can be safe for a long time. So I spend that time thinking about the game, what I'm gonna do. Like what am I? Just like the other guy said, like focus on yourself, dominating on the court. Like making those saves, making the dives for me. And it's always the same music. And I think it's one of those triggers now that I hear that music and, goalie
Yeah,
Chris starts to appear and he's like, oh, I should be getting ready.
right.
So it's that kind of
So
thing. So,
we're starting to see a few common themes then. For the first thing, left side first. And then
mm,
it's music has been established as a performance enhancer to the point where it is in association with some types of sporting events. It's not allowed for the athletes to get pumped up with music before the competition. And
wow.
I,
Okay.
I, I say this without being able to tell you what event this was, but this was all when I was studying to be a personal trainer, and they brought this up. And then
mm,
me and Joel talked about it, and we found actually what looked like peer-reviewed science that say, that speak for the effects of music
mm,
in athletes.
yeah,
So that,
for
that
sure.
seems to be and goalies seem to be a very superstitious bunch.
We
Um,
are really like it's
so
quite impressive actually. Like starting to hear these stories, and you're like, yeah, actually, we kind of all do the same thing, and you have to do it the same order.
yeah, and you're not as unique in your quirkiness as you might think, because
Yeah,
not all goalies, a lot of goalies seem to operate in a similar way.
I think that though, to go on a slight tangent, is very much a cause of a result rather of isolation, is because, for example, when I was playing in New Zealand.
Oh, that type of isolation, not the COVID-19 one,
Oh no, no, sorry, no, like
the
just like
sport specific isolation.
yeah, I guess because of our position, and also because you don't like goalies don't often talk to each other directly about like what's your pre-game routine. Like, do you put the left side on or do you put the right side on? Like
Mm,
even amongst goalies, that's not really that common, I would say. And so like playing in New Zealand, and I knew all the goalies when I was there, and we would always talk, we would always hang out. But that was kind of, to me, I was a goalie in my own way, and the others were goalies in their own way, and everybody had their strengths and weaknesses, and that was kind of it. It was like we were very kind of segregated in our goaliedom. And then coming to the very first blind save came, and one of the things that blew me away was, here are 60 people, all of whom are identical to you. And it's like everybody here knows what you go through. Everybody here does the same things. They have the same, anxieties. They have the same hopes and dreams as you do. They do the same weird shit. Like
yeah,
that's
I had
kind of it. And it
yeah,
was it was this, suddenly here is this community, and it was like, I'm not like a weird guy who does that alone, and I'm the only one who does it. It's like, actually, yeah, like at least half of us here do that. It's like, oh, okay, that's it's quite interesting to see. Like, I think without that experience, you kind of put yourself in this bubble because
I
that's
think so
how
too.
you
Yeah,
see it. Yeah.
and I remember having the exact same experience the first time I went to a goalie camp, which was volleyball goalie camp in
Mm.
2014. weeks only after the WFC that we talked about before.
Right, right.
And I remember I was there with Lina from the camp,
Hmm,
from
hmm.
Målvaktsfokus Goalie camp as well. And when we came there, and we got to watch the first group. Well, I was coaching with the first group, but when
Mm,
they were warming up, there was a team, in air quotes, of
yeah,
goalies doing the warm up run around the court.
yeah, right.
And in my mind, that was like, it's an entire team, but they're all goalkeepers. It looked so surreal. It was a really
Yeah.
powerful thing. So I know exactly where you're coming from on that one.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. It's it's rare when like to get that, but once you have it, it's so like gratifying and
Yeah.
grounding to be like, I'm not alone, like other people are precisely as weird as me, and that's fantastic.
Yes.
It's quite funny when people do that about like nerdiness as well, because
Mm,
I think every nerd about something thinks that they're kind of like, oh, but I'm, that's pretty nerdy. That's pretty weird. And I remember my very first Swedish teacher, as an example, was like he made such a point that he was so nerdy because he played Magic the Gathering, and it's like, man,
mm,
I work in visual effects and film, and I just finished telling you that my girlfriend and I had just watched like the entirety of Star Trek on the weekend. Like we spent like 48 hours binge watching Star Trek. Like, trust me,
oh.
my friend, like Magic the Gathering has nothing on us. Like, you are weird in one way, but you are talking to like equal-minded people here. Like we're just as nerdy as each other. So it's I think it's that bubble of, if you get told that that's a little bit weird, which of course goalies do by field players,
Yeah.
we're one and they're 15, and then that's kind of what you believe until suddenly you realize it's not the case, and it's like,
Yeah, it becomes sort of
friends.
a self-fulfilling prophecy where it's like, you're a
Mm,
goalie, you're a bit weird. I'm a goalie,
yeah.
maybe I should be a little weird, and then you adopt quirks to be
Yes.
weird. Who
Mm,
knows?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly.
So what is your go-to music? You say you listen to the same thing.
Yes, I feel like I'm overdoing it with references to the Blind Safe camp, but this is another one that I found randomly while at the Blind Safe camp, and I was looking for something to listen to while walking from the hotel to the camp on one of the days, and I found a Latvian band, post-rock band
Really?
called Tempest. So they
Sing in
so
Latvian?
no, so it's all instrumental. So post-rock is like
Ah,
it's kind of ambient instrumental rock, and it's
cool.
generally more about like a kind of take you on a journey rather than like sing you a song and tell you a tale type thing.
Mm,
So you can kind of go anywhere with it. But because it's doesn't have singing, it's actually really nice to just get me in the zone. And aside from just being one of my favorite music genres anyway. But it was hilarious that I was listening to a song, and then it was like, oh, if you like this song, these guys are also this genre, and they're also from Latvia. And I was like, I'm in Latvia, like I have to listen to this. And so I was like, the chances of this are astronomical. And so I put them on, and they're really good. I really enjoyed them. And it was like really nice kind of summer morning, super quiet, super chill. And there was like four or five of us. I think I was walking with between the post guys and a friend of mine, Daniel, and we were walking, just meandering, and everyone doing their own thing and listening to their own music. And so it was super peaceful, and we were all kind of thinking about the day ahead. And so that became the feeling, or like the kind of the attitude attached to that music for me.
mm,
And so the next kind of game I played, I was like, oh, I'm going to listen to some music and, like amp myself up. And then I was like, wait, I know a good one. And I put that on, and it was just like instant for me, like an instant switch of just relaxation. Like, here I am getting changed. I'm going to go and play, and, moving forward from here. Like, it reset my, what's the kind of like, being present. I think it's like
mm.
it comes up in meditation often, that term is like being present and mindfulness of, like, for me, that
Yeah,
that
mindfulness.
song, the first like bar, the first kind of opening notes is like
Mm.
it hits, and I am suddenly present in where I am, and I know what I need to do.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's yeah. I mean, it sounds kind of weird for now that I'm saying it aloud, and I really hope that the other goalies will come and back me up on this. But it's I think it's repetition as well. Like, from it started because it reminded me of that time. So it reminded me of a goalie camp, and it reminded me of being with my friends. It reminded me of being in a peaceful place and just relaxing, and preparing to do goalie stuff. initially, and then now because I listen to it like almost exclusively that before games, I know that when that song comes on, this is kind of the next step.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. They're so-called triggers.
Mm.
So I don't see that it being weird in any way, shape, or form. It makes perfect sense. There are
Mm.
trigger words, there are, trigger actions that you can do.
Mm.
So it makes perfect, quote unquote, scientific sense.
Excellent. That's good.
And talking about, triggers and, that's pretty much for me exactly what game preparation is about.
Mm.
And no matter what you do or how you do it, it's all about getting yourself into the right mind state. And what that mind state is differs for all of us. How we get there differs for all of us. The former first goalie of Varberg's men's team, he would read the newspaper,
Oh,
like in the locker room, close to the game,
yeah, right.
because he had to get his mind completely off it
Yeah, right.
and then be able to go into the game and then focus super hard for 60 minutes.
Mm.
And there are all types of methods. So,
Hmm.
what I would recommend, if you don't feel that you have a routine and you would want one, you don't need to have one, I guess. There's a really cool thing on YouTube if you go and search for Braden Holtby uh, pre-game. I'm not really sure what to put after his name, but like routine. He will go through and this is an NHL goaltender.
Hmm.
Me and Joel talked about this, and I watched that video, and it was really cool. It's a really long, really intricate routine, but it seemed really cool. And what Joel did is what I'm going to recommend others to do as well. If you're looking for a routine, is to just look at what others are doing, copy it,
Mm.
see if it works. If it doesn't, you throw it away. If it does, you use it and then you tweak it to fit you even better. So remove
Yes.
parts of it, add parts of it. For example, something that Joel took from Braden Holtby as well
Hmm.
was to cope with getting scored on. So
Right.
Braden Holtby being a hockey goaltender, he's playing on ice, so it's not a problem for him to do. He would drink from the water bottle and then shoot water up into the air,
Hmm.
and then find one drop of water with both of his eyes and follow that drop of water all the way from the air down to the ice. And when that drop of water hit the ice, that's the point of reset for him.
Huh.
He would shoot the water up in the air, track that water drop. When it hits the ice, that was his switch,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
Joel adapted and made his own. And I think that's a very good place to start if
Mm.
you want to be able to find a better way of getting yourself psyched for a game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Is like, I mean, my warm up routine, stretching routine on court. Like once I'm actually there and kitted up and getting ready for the game, is like shamelessly stolen from one of my friends walking me through it. Again, at Blindsave camp,
Mm.
and he was like, "Yeah, this is what I do." And I think he doesn't even do it anymore. I think like he has a different one. His has evolved with time, but I've stuck with that one because it's the one that I know, and it's just basically like somebody showed me it, I stole it, it worked for me, I kept doing it. That's it. That's how you build a routine.
Yeah, I think that's a super solid way to go about it.
All right, so we're going to move into something called nerd talk to wind down. So we're going to talk about. We often hear us talking about playing Heroes of the Storm together, and so we're going to talk about what games do you play, Pontus? What games are you currently playing?
So should we first start by prefacing what is Nerd Talk and why do we want to have this segment?
Yes, do you wanna explain that bit?
Well, thing is, me and Joel have this thing in the Swedish episodes where we do a little game at the end to just have a fun way to round out, and then me and Chris were, talking about ways to structure our episodes, and then we have a lot of things in common, but one more so than others, which is the love for nerdy stuff, quote unquote, which would in this case be like video games, like you said, maybe Star Trek, Star Wars, Lord of
Mm.
the Rings, fantasy, role-playing games, such as World of Warcraft. So we're gonna let you know a little bit about ourselves, other than outside of goaltending, and we're gonna do so by with every episode we're gonna have a new thing to discuss for Nerd Talk
Yes.
and let ourselves geek out.
Yes.
So when I didn't play World of Warcraft, which I did religiously for like 7 years, And then I played on and off for another 3 or 4. So I played World of Warcraft for a long time.
Mm.
When I wasn't heavily invested into one game, I've always been I've been bouncing around, tiny little games.
Yeah.
And tycoon games is a big thing for me.
Really? Like Roller
So
Coaster Tycoon and stuff?
exactly that type of game, but I've never gone into that one.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
I watch a lot of YouTube gamers such as Jacksepticeye and PewDiePie and Markiplier, and when I see them playing the game that I think looks nice, then I go and download them myself. And
Yeah.
the boring thing with it is that I get the entire game spoiled by watching them do it, but
Oh,
uh,
yes.
I will never go into a game blind. I would need to know,
Mm.
what it's about. So I'm looking at my Steam account here, and games that I've downloaded and played and loved just by watching YouTubers play it and then
Mhm.
try them myself are Cuphead,
Ooh.
Game Developer Tycoon,
Mhm.
Orcs Must Die, Ori and the Blind Forest.
Oh, yep, yep,
Hey,
yep.
you play that one?
I have I've started it so many times, but never been in the right mindset, and I don't wanna do it like an injustice by playing it when I'm in the mood for something a little more action-based. Like,
Yeah, good
I've
idea.
yeah, I wanna give it the respect that it deserves.
Oh, you should. You like get in the right mindset and mood, and then play through. It's a really cool game.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Papers, Please,
Hmm.
and then Poly Bridge, where you just build bridges over gaps for cars to go over. And then Slime Rancher, which is a really silly game, and then South Park: The Stick of Truth, and Turmoil.
Turmoil.
Turmoil. It's a resource management game where you dig for oil and try to see how much oil you can dig out of a certain plot of land in 1 year's time, and then there's not really that much more to it. It's just a very pleasant resource management game.
Yeah, right.
Um, so I spend a lot of time playing games like that. But then, yeah, that's the most recent thing that I've played, Turmoil. What
Right.
about you?
Well, these days it's a lot of Heroes of the Storm. Um,
Yeah, I played that
s-
today.
yes, me too. Um, which is funny because actually my girlfriend and I used to play Diablo 3 on the Xbox a lot, like all the
Ooh,
time. And that was our kind of, Friday night weekend thing. We're relaxing, we play some games, we play Diablo 3. And then we got introduced to Heroes of the Storm, and we haven't played Diablo since.
for which I take full credit, by the way.
Yes, yeah, I blame slash thank you for this.
Yeah.
Hashtag no regrets.
The
Um,
the great thing about Heroes of the Storm, like we've mentioned, amongst ourselves before, is that it has the good bits of League of Legends, but none of the toxicity in the community.
or I wouldn't say none, but not
Not
nearly
none. Yeah, I agree.
approaching.
I
Yeah.
agree. Not none, but a very significantly smaller portion of toxicity.
Yes. I would say the toxicity you won't find until you hit like playing against elite AI, like the hardest difficulty with real people, or
Mm,
playing people versus people.
yeah.
Um, and that's kind of one reason why I don't really play against the elite computer anymore. Is like, I feel like I'm up to the challenge, but at the same time, there's always one. There's always one, and it just makes it not fun anymore. And
Mm.
ultimately, that's why I'm playing the game. So if it's not fun, then this is, it's a waste of time. So it's kind of
That's
like,
also
well,
why Brawl is such a good thing. Have you played Brawl?
yes, Brawl is excruciating though.
How
Like
so?
I like it, but man, that is just like a war of attrition. It's so
Yeah.
for people who are not familiar with this, Brawl is you get a random choice, like a choice of three random heroes at the start. So you pick one of three that the game presents you, and that's who you play that round. So whereas normally you can pick and choose who you want to be, and then there's a single line. It's basically like you start at two ends of a road and run into the middle and fight. And so it's very very grinding. And yeah, at the same time, I think two out of the three games that I played of Brawl, we ground the enemy down to almost the last kind of line of defense, their last walls.
Yeah.
And then somebody made a mistake. I think at least one of the times it was me. And that mistake just cost us the whole game because it was like it flips on a dime. Like it's if it's even and one team is losing, then that's fine ish. Probably not for the people losing, but that's okay. But then as soon as there's like one person makes a mistake and dies, and then it's 5 on 4, and then they kill another one because it's 5-on-4, and then it's 5-on-3, and you've got two heroes coming back, like respawning at two different times,
Yeah.
and so the whole team is just shafted. Like that
Yes.
one mistake can so easily cost you the game,
This is
and
true.
so it's
However, the I find that the level of toxic people,
mm,
first of all, there are fewer toxic people in Brawl, and the level of toxicity is lower. And when we say toxic people, it's just people that are mean when you make a mistake, basically.
yeah,
And
that's true.
because so many people get a hero that they've never played when they play Brawl, people have a
Yes.
larger acceptance for you not playing well. And
Mm.
a good way to circumvent this is to, when the game starts, say, I've never played this hero before, even if you have. And because
Stacking
then
the
people
cards
will
in
be
your
like,
favor.
definitely, it really works. I did the same thing when I started with League of Legends. As long as I was typing
Mm.
and saying that like literally never played this game, I have no idea how it works,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
were super nice to me.
Mm,
And
mm,
then second game, I was like, I've only ever played one game
mm,
before.
mm.
I'm still really new. Please help me. And they were like, all right, right. And then they helped me.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you're approaching. You've played 10 games. You know what the
Mm,
game's about. You can no longer justify saying I have no idea what I'm doing.
mm.
And as long as you don't preface your performance with saying that, they will assume that you're awesome. And then when you aren't, they
Yes.
get you for it.
That was what ended my very abrupt League of Legends foray. I was going to say career, but then I actually realized you can have a career doing that. So
Mm,
um, for me, it was like I played like one or two games, and because I didn't say hello, I'm new, please help me, I just got savaged, and it
yeah,
was like, you know, it it sets the bar as like you have to be really good at this by the time you start. And I was like, but that's not how experience works. Like, I can't be
exactly.
awesome the first time I play. So
And
that was the challenging game. But it's cool to hear that, like, if you actually be like, hey, I'm new, please help, then they do. I don't want it to be all bad about that game, right? Just because it wasn't my cup of tea.
yeah, I get you. And that's where I find that Brawl is better because you get heroes that you don't normally have access to, so
Mm,
you can play that card.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
I would also, before we end, I would like to. Okay, I have one more nerd talk topic, but
Oh
I
yes.
also just got another message, and now I know that the person from Between the Post who washes his gear before the game day of the game
Hmm.
is David.
Ah, okay.
And Lars said, I'm just going to run over this quickly.
Hmm.
Drinking a shake with all the needed vitamins and minerals, always using the stretching and mobility warm up,
Hmm.
the stretching. So there might be a specific one here
That
of
would
which
be
I am
logical.
unaware. Taping fingers, not a bad idea if you're not wearing
Hmm.
gloves. Last man who enters the field. So the the opposite of
Interesting.
David then, who would hang out in the goal or literally hang in the goal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, Reading the sentence which is printed in my helmet, which says, "Rise and rise again until lambs become lions,"
Yes, that is Lars. I remember. Yeah.
and then touching posts left to right.
Hmm.
So we got to get that in there as well.
Yes.
And what I would like to know, in
Mhm.
the realm of nerd talk, what is your
Yes.
favorite console game?
It's got to be Horizon Zero Dawn. I mean, just the story is astounding, and you get to fight robot dinosaurs. Like,
Yeah.
but it was that was a cool one actually because it was one of those ones that was on my list for a very long time, and I never really got around to getting it. And then I mentioned it to my girlfriend, and so she bought it for me, and we sat there and played it through. And man, it's so good. Like, so well written.
I had I know you and I talked about that game before,
Mhm.
and it still strikes me as surprising that you found the game that good because I have heard, not so good things about Horizon Zero Dawn to the point where I've had it in my hand in the game store and been like, "Ooh, it looks really cool," but oh,
Mm.
so I never
Uh,
actually got around to buying it.
I think it's like for me, I really dislike having other people's opinions form whether or not I should play a game or watch a movie or something. So
I agree. For me, it's an economic thing.
yeah,
It's if I want to spend $60 or 600 Swedish crowns on a
yeah,
game, I kind of need to be quite sure that the game is good
yeah, yeah. That's fair.
because
Yeah,
I don't have money to throw around. So
mm, yeah,
that's what made me not buy it at that point.
yeah, yeah. No, That's fair. I mean, I'm normally quite conservative in buying new games for exactly that reason. It's like, man, if I pay like 600 crowns for this and it turns out to be rubbish, I'm gonna regret it so bad.
Yeah.
Um, but that one was really cool because I really wanted to play it, but I hadn't bought it myself, and then it was a gift, and so it was like I just kind of I was free to jump into it. Um, and I think the story for me was exactly the kind of thing that I enjoy. Like the mystery was kind of like drip fed a little bit at a time, and it was kind of started hinting at the bigger story, but it never gave it away. Kind of right up until the big reveal, like and yeah, and it was such a like a very apt story for our point in time, our kind of civilization as well. It's very interesting how it ties into kind of present day, and I think just the gameplay was super balanced as well. Like I think it was one of those rare games where you could do whatever you want. Like you could be a sniper, you could just run out and hit things if you want. You could ride around on a robot dinosaur if you want. Like you can play any style, and it worked kind of equally well. And I
Yeah.
loved that because sometimes I want to do this, and sometimes I want to do that, and sometimes I just want to run around and hit things. Um, and a lot of games are like they do one thing super well, but the other thing's kind of not so great. And so like you could be a sniper, and it's a sniper game. So if being a sniper is awesome, but being anything other than that is not so great.
Right.
Or it'll be like a run and gun, but they have a sniper because some people like to play sniper, and then you play a sniper and it's awful, and it's like. So whereas Horizon Zero Dawn I found was quite balanced in that, so it was like you could kind of do anything you wanted, and it would worked pretty equally well, I would say.
Right. I might actually have to go and check if there is a lowered price now that the game has been out for a while on the PlayStation Store.
Yeah,
I mean, you're kind of getting me intrigued.
yeah. I would say let go of your expectations and preconceptions and just play it and have fun. And I think you'll enjoy being carried along. And I
Right.
think that was what happened to me. So
Right. So I bring this up because I have such a hard time deciding between my favorite console game as of lately because I only got a PS4 1 year ago, maybe one and a half.
okay.
I did have the old school PS, when you play Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2.
Oh yeah, yeah, yep.
I was the shit on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. Don't test me. Um, but I never got around to getting a console until the PS4. Um, and then the first game that I bought along with my PS4 was God of War.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And here's a testament to how good a game God of War 4 is.
Mm,
I watched the entire playthrough from Jacksepticeye on YouTube.
mm.
I knew the entire story, everything was spoiled. I bought the game and I was still blown away.
Yeah, right.
Like the game was that good. Just how beautiful the game is. Like it's
Mm,
so well done. They've made it so that all loading screens, you're unaware that they are loading screens. Your
right.
characters, you're steering the boat through something and then that's a loading screen, but you have no clue that it is one.
Mm,
So it's a
mm,
very seamless thing. The story is great. The gameplay is amazing.
mm.
And here's where it gets tricky. I found the gameplay to be very intuitive. So when I had to block an attack for the first time,
Hmm.
it was very intuitive for me where the block was, which
Mm.
was left one. For some reason that was very intuitive for me. And then I go and buy Witcher 3,
Yeah, right.
The Wild Hunt. And a friend of mine had been hyping this a few years back, and I didn't have a console at the time. I was like, yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Because I'm always very, very reluctant when someone says, hey, dude, this is awesome.
Mm.
I kind of get reluctant. But here I am 2, 3 years later buying Witcher 3, and it was counterintuitive.
Yeah.
The style of combat didn't make sense to me. The buttons didn't make sense to me. It was difficult. So I played it for like 1 week. It's like, I'm not really getting the hang of this.
Mm.
And then I forced myself to play it more because, after all, I had bought the game.
Yeah, yeah,
And after that 1 week, I was sucked into this vortex of addiction.
yeah.
That was just, I could play that game for so long.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a very hard time choosing between them two, but I think all in all, I've almost finished playing through God of War a second time, and I have played Witcher 3 a second time.
Mm, mm.
Um, I think the money might have to go to uh, Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt on this one, but it's a
Nice.
close shave.
Yeah, right.
And then also, I just have to give a honorable mention to Detroit Become Human.
Oh, I have a copy of that in storage in New Zealand. Never, we bought it just before I left, and I was super gutted.
You should,
Yeah.
when you get the opportunity, I do
Mm.
recommend you looking into Detroit Become Human, because
Yes.
it's not my preferred style of gameplay,
Mm.
but it was still so well written. It was so well done.
Yeah.
So good looking game as well. And
Yeah.
even though I prefer the kind of hack and slash God of
Mm.
War, Witcher 3 story mode kind of thing, Detroit Become Human actually was really gripping to me. So I can
Yeah.
recommend
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Nice. I would say my close second would be Dragon Age Inquisition. I
Oh,
have lost count of how many times I've played through that game, start to finish. Like it was super good. And I even started using it learning French because I was learning French when I was younger,
really?
and I discovered that I had French voiceover and French subtitles, and so I started playing Dragon Age
Sick.
because I knew it like the back of my hand. And you could it was really good conversation practice because you had to understand what the person was saying and then be able to pick a response and then kind of continue the conversation. So actually, like my conversational skills like skyrocketed while playing this game, and I was
Nice.
so gutted to discover that like all Swedes play games in English.
Yeah, we do.
That was so crushing. It's like that's
Yeah.
my one language trick. I have nothing else.
Yeah, we don't really, when I say we, I probably mean me, don't rock with Swedish
Mm,
stuff. I listen very scarcely to Swedish music, and I don't like Swedish movies or series
mm,
at all.
yeah.
It's all
I
about English.
even just trying to find games that are like that have a Swedish voiceover or Swedish subtitles. Even it just like subtitles is reasonably common, but a Swedish voiceover is like nobody does it. I guess it's not really worth the money when everyone speaks English anyway. So it's like, well,
Exactly, yeah.
it's kind of like it's not really worth the studio paying for a whole game to be translated to a language when everyone already speaks the main language of the game anyway. So, but as somebody learning Swedish, I was very disappointed.
Yeah, that's probably very true, that's how it works.
Mm.
And I guess I will just have to give you a Swedish lesson in the next podcast episode.
Well, if you're gonna embarrass yourself, do it in front of everybody, right? Like go big or go
Exactly.
home.
Deep end first.
Yes. So to wind down our podcast from today, thank you all very much for listening. It's a pleasure to have you here, and hopefully we will see you again next time. And we're going to hit you with another question for next time. Pontus, you want to take this one?
Yeah, we're always going to do a thing called listener engagement. Um, and we just want to hear your thoughts on certain topics, and then we will give you our thoughts on them as well, so that you always get to have some input in the episodes. And for this week's listener engagement, we would like to hear what you have to say about the sorrow penalty rule, because when that rule came, I lost my shit on that. I was really upset with it. I
Mm,
thought it was going to have a hugely negative impact on how sorrow penalties, well, penalties were played.
mhm,
But it turns out here we are more than 1 year later, and it wasn't as bad as I had imagined. So, what
mm.
is your experience with the sorrow penalty rule? Has it affected you at all? Has it affected you negatively, or in a good way even? Or what's your experience with the sorrow penalty rule?
Excellent. Please let us know your thoughts and comments on it. DM to Målvaktsnack or respond to the story when it appears. And we will catch you on the flip side. See you next time. Thanks very much,
See you
guys.
next time. Bye bye.